we've got a great show lined up for you. We've got the 6 Fantasy Football League 2022 schedule release today. So we're going to be going into that in depth. We're going to be talking quarterback rankings 1 through 32. We're going to name our favorite quarterbacks and who we love this upcoming season. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the 6 Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts, Zach Schaefer and Jeremy Flores.
To the 6 Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schaefer, and not with me this episode is Jeremy Flores. He was unable to make it for this episode, so I'm going to do it alone. I got my little mascot, Tech Side. He's actually my dog. He's going to be keeping the screen warm for Jeremy while I'm doing this. And so let's get into it. First, we're going to talk about NFL news of the day.
NFL news of the day.
So the first big news is Deebo Samuel refollowing the 49ers on Instagram. And of course it's 2022, so that's big news, man. And looks like that relationship is being healed. And you know what? And I think personally, I think it's good for Deebo. I hate when players go to different teams. I like when they stay with one team. I wish Tyreek Hill was still with the Chiefs. I wish Devontae Adams was still with the Packers. I wish A.J. Brown was still with the Titans, and I wish Tom Brady would retire, you know? So I hope Deebo is able to stay with the Niners. I think it's good for the Niners. It's good for Jimmy G. It's good for Deebo. It's good for everybody there, except for maybe Brandon Ayuk. But, you know, he'll just have to live. And I think I think it's good for even Brandon Ayuk. Next news is NFL schedule drops this Thursday. I'm super pumped. This is being recorded Sunday night. So Monday morning, they're going to reveal one of the Monday Night Football games. They've got the international games already released. And they've got the first Thursday night home opener for the Chiefs and Los Angeles Chargers in week 2. That's super exciting. Next, Pete Carroll said that Drew Lock would have been a first-round pick in this year's draft. Drew Lock was drafted by the Broncos in the second round. And I said this on the last episode. I'm going to say it again. Drew Lock. I'm not a Drew Lock fan at all whatsoever. Drew Lock is to me what Baker Mayfield is to Colin Cowherd. Just not a fan at all. Okay, I do not think that Drew Lock would have been drafted in the first round. I mean, if Desmond Ridder is not drafted in the first round of this draft, Drew Lock is not drafted in the first round of this draft. Plain and simple. Next is there was an article released a few days ago that I didn't know about until this evening. Another saga, another addition to the Urban Meyer saga. Thank you, Shad Khan, for this piece of news. Shad Khan, he's the owner of the Jaguars. He was interviewed by USA Today where he unloaded about Urban Meyer, and he said he had this to say: when you lose the respect, the trust, and an issue of truthfulness, how can you work with someone like that? It's not possible. It was not about wins and losses. I think when you know someone is not truthful, how can you be around someone? Okay. We had Doug Marrone here 4 years. We had Gus Bradley here 4 years. I have nothing but the utmost respect and friendship with them. That's why they got the time, because it wasn't a matter of about respect or truth. It was a matter of wins and losses over 4 years. This is much bigger than that. I cannot stand Urban Meyer. Okay. There are people I love in the NFL. I love Andy Reid. I love Bill Belichick. I love Sean McVay. I really like Mike McDaniels. I think that's going to be scratched from the record. I really, really like a lot of coaches in this league. I cannot stand Urban Meyer. I can't. I love a lot of these coaches in the league. I love Dan Campbell. I love Matt LaFleur. I hate Urban Meyer. I can't stand the guy. I couldn't stand him at Ohio State. I couldn't stand him at Florida. I can't stand Urban Meyer. And I said this when Urban Meyer got hired by Jacksonville. He was being hired. And this is something that of value. I think you should hire people based off of past performance. He was being hired because he was the bigger name in the list. He had the most shock factor. That's what it was. It was like nominating Donald Trump for president. It's about shock factor. Now, I don't want to get into politics, but Urban Meyer was about shock factor. That's what it was about. It wasn't about hiring him because he was going to be a good NFL head coach. And he had proven he's a good head coach. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I think he's a great head coach, just not at the NFL level. When they hired him, I knew it was going to be an issue. I knew it was going to be a problem. Did I know he was going to last 1 year? No. But I knew he wasn't going to last. So when you have just an avalanche of issues with the same guy, he stays in Cincinnati after a loss on a Thursday night to get some nookie from a girl at a bar. He kicks a pretty loved player in your organization in Josh Lambo. He's totally unprepared. And like, here's the thing with that article saying that he didn't know who Aaron Donald was. If that's the case, that should have been signed to go right there. He berated assistant coaches. He demeaned everyone there. Urban Meyer's just a not good person. And that's as strongly as I can say it, because I cannot stand the guy. But man, it just keeps coming. And you know what? Shad Khan, the issue is you have a non-football guy trying to run a football team, football organization. Shad Khan does too much. Shad Khan is more of a Jerry Jones type. He's too involved. You need GMs that run the team for a reason and not Trent Baalke. So that's the news around the NFL right now. Now let's get into why you're all here. The 6 fantasy football schedule is releasing today. And I put a lot of effort into this. And I say we, it's all me. You know, as commissioner of the league, that's what I'm here for. Okay. I come in and I urinate excellence. Okay. So I put this schedule together. We released over the weekend, we released week 1, week 12, which is Thanksgiving / rivalry week. We released the home openers, which is a new little twist that we have this year, that we have home and away games for each team in the schedule release, just something to make things a little bit more fun for the players of the league. So week 1, we have a 2021 champion versus a 2022 champion. They're also rematching from the 2021 championship. That is the Mighty Bucks and team. It's a home game for the Mighty Bucks because you got to open the season at home. Then a twist in the schedule from usual. The Fakui Tribe and Jayhawks are not meeting up despite meeting up in the consolation game last year. The Fakui Tribe will face the Blintzes in their home opener week 1. And then Jayhawks will meet Bush did 9/11 in the first game of the Bush Hawk rivalry. That'll be the first home game for the Jayhawks and will be the first of 3 games between the two teams. And then the third of 3 games between the two teams will happen over Thanksgiving on week 12. And that'll be a home game for Bush did 9/11. The Fakui Tribe will meet up with the Mighty Bucks, and team will take on the Blintzes. And this is rivalry week, and Bush did 9/11 and Jayhawks have met this week for the last 3 seasons. The Fakui Tribe and the Mighty Bucks will meet this season. This will be the beginning of their rivalry because they are the newest teams in the league. They're the newest franchises in the league, and the team and the Blintzes are the other 2 founding members. So they will face off on Thanksgiving weekend. So let's get into Bushton 9/11 schedule. They were 6th place last year. Thank the Lord, man. Let me just say that as the owner of the Jayhawks, the rival of Bushton 9/11, my co-host who didn't bother to show up today. Let me just say, I'm so glad they finished in last place. So glad. They opened the season on the road against Jayhawks. Then they go back home for 2 games. They got the Blintzes and the Mighty Bucks weeks 2 and 3. Then they've got 3 games on the road. They got Team, the Fakui Tribe, and the Mighty Bucks those 3 weeks. Then they've got Jayhawks at home, week 7, halfway through the season. Then they got the Fakui Tribe and Team both at home, weeks 8 and 9. Then they got 2 on the road, the Blintzes and the Mighty Bucks, weeks 10 and 11. Back to the Jayhawks at home for Thanksgiving. They got week 13 against the Blintzes on the road, and then they take on the Fakui Tribe for the last game of their season of week 14 at home. So here, one of the things I want to look at the schedule. Notice the consecutive road and home games right there in the middle. You got 3 on the road and 3 at home in a row. It's going to be an interesting little run for them in the middle of the season. Now let's get into the Blintzes. The Blintzes are going to be starting at home week 3. They're not going to be at home until week 3. They're going to start with 2 road games. They got week 1 against the Fakui Tribe and then week 2 against Bushton 9/11. Then they're at home against Jayhawks and then back to the road against the Mighty Bucks. Then after that, they've got 3 straight home games. They've got Team, they've got the Fakui Tribe, and they've got the Mighty Bucks weeks 5, 6, and 7. Week 8, they have Jayhawks on the road, and then the Mighty Bucks as well on the road week 9. Then they got week 10 at home against Bushton 9/11. They got 2 straight road games, Fakui Tribe and Team, weeks 11 and 12. They get a quick turnaround to face Bushton 9/11 once again, week 13, and then Team once again, week 14. Both of those games at home. Now we get to Jayhawks. Jayhawks will start the season at home against Bushton 9/11. Then they got 2 road games against Team and the Blintzes. Then they got the Fakui Tribe at home. Then they face off against the Mighty Bucks on the road. They've got Team at home for week 6. Week 7, the midway point of the season, they got Bushton 9/11 on the road. The Blintzes week 8 and the Fakui Tribe week 9, both those games at home. They got week 10 against the Mighty Bucks on the road. Week 11 back at home against Team. Bushton 9/11 week 12 on the road for Thanksgiving. Week 13 on the road against the Fakui Tribe, and then wrapping up the season at home against the Mighty Bucks. Now we get into the Fakui Tribe. The Fakui Tribe opens at home, like mentioned earlier, against the Blintzes. Then they got the Mighty Bucks on the road. 3 straight at home. They've got Team, Jayhawks, and then Bushton 9/11 weeks 3 through 5. The Blintzes that week 6 on the road, week 7 back at home against Team once again. Then weeks 8 through 10, they're back on the road. They've got Bushton 9/11, Jayhawks, and Team, reverse of their 3-game homestand earlier. And they've got on the road weeks 8 through 10, Bushton 9/11, Jayhawks, and Team. Then they've got the Blintzes at home, the Mighty Bucks at home as well, weeks 11 and 12. Then wrap up the season on the road, weeks 13 and 14 against Bushton 9/11, Jayhawks, and then Bushton 9/11. Now we get into Team. Team opens the season on the road against the Mighty Bucks. Then they go on to face Jayhawks week 2. Week 3 and 4, they continue a 3-game homestand against Defakui Tribe, and then Bush did 9/11. They've got 2 on the road against the Blintzes and Jayhawks weeks 5 and 6. And then week 7 at the halfway point, they start a 2-game homestand against Defakui Tribe and then the Mighty Bucks. After that, they've got 3 straight on the road against Bush did 9/11, Defakui Tribe, and the Jayhawks. And then they've got the Blintzes and the Mighty Bucks at home, and then wrap up the season against the Blintzes away from home on the road. Now, finally, for the league champion, we've got them opening the season against Team. They've got 2 straight home games. They've got Team and then Defakui Tribe 1 and 2. Got a road game against Bush did 9/11 week 3. 3 straight home games. The Blintzes, the Jayhawks, and Bush did 9/11 weeks 4 through 6. They got 2 road games. The Blintzes week 7, Team week 8. Back to the Blintzes week 9 at home. An away game against the Jayhawks week 10. Week 11, they take on Bush did 9/11 at home, which will be their last home game of the season. They've got 3 straight away on the road. Week 12, Thanksgiving against the Defakui Tribe. Week 13 against Team, and wrapping up the season on the road against Jayhawks week 14. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into our quarterback discussion and rankings. We want to thank you for listening to the 6 FFL podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by the 6 FFL store through Redbubble. We have team merch for all teams, not just Team, as well as championship gear, playoff gear, and much, much more. Stickers, t-shirts, hoodies, and anything you can imagine, all on the 6 FFL store. The 6 FFL store helps us keep going, keeps this podcast going, and keeps our league going. So go grab some merch and support us today. All right, time to get in to quarterbacks. I've been excited about this. I'm ready to get in to the quarterback discussion. So our number 1 quarterback on the board is Josh Allen. I have him ranked 2nd. Jeremy has him ranked 1st. Consensus puts him at number 1. He had 406 completions, a total of 63.3% completion rating. 4407 was his passing yards, 36 and 15. He had 763 yards rushing with 6 touchdowns for a total of 42 touchdowns. He had 3 lost fumbles, giving him a total of 18 turnovers. And in our fantasy league, that was a total of 439 fantasy points. I think Josh Allen is a phenomenal quarterback. I do. He is. It's impossible to say really how good he is, because I look at our rankings right now, our 1, 2, 3, and I do have him at 2, and it's because I have a little bias because I love Patrick Mahomes, but I have them very close in fantasy points. I think I have Josh Allen projected just a couple points lower than Patrick Mahomes. Like, I have them neck and neck. I think they're both extremely talented. Josh Allen has the weapons and has the just pure God-given talent that a lot of people do not have. He's phenomenal to watch. And you know what? In any fantasy league, especially in our league where we're 6, we are 6-point touchdown or passing touchdowns, I would be thrilled to be able to get Josh Allen in the 2nd round or 3rd round in this league, because we go to quarterback. If I could get Josh Allen in the 2nd round, I would be losing my mind. Realistically, Patrick Mahomes, we know, will be kept by the Mighty Bucks, but I doubt he will fall. I think he will go in the early 2nd round, late 1st round. I think he could go number 5 Team, team had him last year. He was an all-pro player in our league. I think Josh Allen, there's no way he makes it to my pick at the 204. He's going to go um he's going to go in that late first, early second uh in our league. Now, redraft leagues. 4 point. Obviously, you're going to want to take him a little bit later, but I think he's still going to go. I think you will see people take him ridiculously early. I think Josh Allen will go in a redraft league 5th, 6th round. Dynasty startup. I bet you see him around there as well. He is a phenomenally talented player. And looking at his rushing, I mean, we talk about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson missed week 11. He was hurt week 14 through 18, and he had 4 more rushing yards than Josh Allen had in the whole season. So Josh Allen, not as much as Lamar, but the dude can run. And so that adds to his arsenal, and that adds to your numbers when you're drafting him in fantasy. I would feel comfortable in a redraft league taking him in the 3rd or 4th round if I really wanted to reach for a quarterback. I don't love reaching for quarterbacks. I don't I don't love doing that. Josh Allen could go 3rd, 4th round, and I would be comfortable taking him in the 3rd or 4th round. Next one we have on the list is Patrick Mahomes, who I love Patrick Mahomes. I love watching him play. I know in the 6th, I'll probably never have Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has been kept since he got drafted in 2018. He was drafted in the 17th round, and that franchise still has him, even though they have changed owners. I know he will be kept this season. He had 436 completions, 66.3 completion percentage, 48-28 in his passing yards. He had 37 and 13, 37 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 381 rushing yards. Add another 2 touchdowns rushing to that, brings him up to 39 rushing, or 39 total touchdowns. And then 4 fumbles lost, giving him 17 total turnovers, which is 1 less than Josh Allen. And he had a total of 407 fantasy points. And this was the first year since his coming out season in 2018 that he's missed the All-Pro in our league. And that's just, it's crazy. And he still had a great year. He still had a really good year. We have him at 4th or 5th in total QB fantasy points, and he didn't make the All-Pro team. He led this team, the Mighty Bucks, to a championship, and I still have him ranked number 1. Jeremy has him ranked number 2. And here's the thing: I think there's obviously a change of guard with Tyreek Hill leaving, but I think even with the change of guard with Tyreek Hill leaving, you still got added talent. Sky Moore is coming in. Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. You still have McCole Hardman. And then you honestly, a lot of Kansas City beat writers are writing about him. It would be so impressive, but undrafted free agent Justin Ross, who was a projected 1st-round pick a couple years ago, was added by the Chiefs. They have talent at that wide receiver core. Don't forget, you have Travis Kelce. Yes, he is aging. You added Ronald Jones. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You've pumped up that offensive line. I still think Patrick Mahomes is going to be a top fantasy quarterback this season. In redraft leagues, you're going to get him cheaper than Josh Allen. In Dynasty, probably about the same price as Josh Allen. But man, I love Patrick Mahomes. I wish he was a draftable player in the 1st round of our draft this August, because I don't think if Patrick Mahomes was available, I don't think he'd make it to me at the 3 pick. I know he wouldn't make it past the 4 pick or past the 3 pick if he was there. So Patrick Mahomes, and again, these 1, 2, 3, I have them so super close because they are so super talented. And it was, I mean, Justin Herbert was the unanimous 3. He's the next guy we're going to talk about. He was number 3. Mighty Bucks had Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Won championship. Again, we're a 6-point touchdown league, and it makes quarterbacks deadly. A lot of us don't take them super high. We had a few go in the second round this last year. Justin Herbert is one that they were able to sit back on, and he dropped a little bit. Justin Herbert was 443 completions, 65.9%, but he had 5,000 passing yards. And honestly, I almost want to double check that because that seems off. Like that's so incredibly high. I mean, Mahomes did have 4,800, 5,014 yards, 38 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. He had 302 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and and a fumble lost, bringing his touchdown total to 41 and his turnover total to 16. He had 425 fantasy points in the 6 last year. Dude's a baller. The Chargers obviously need a little boost. I mean, they were a tie away from making the playoffs. But Justin Herbert is such a great quarterback. I'm so excited as a fan of the AFC. We get to watch Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson for years to come. It is so much fun. And now you add Russell Wilson into that. I mean, it is incredible. I don't want to spend a whole ton of time, but man, Justin Herbert is just a dominant force. And then the Mighty Bucks happen to have both Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert last year, and it was just phenomenal to watch. Our next quarterback is Lamar Jackson. A lot of Lamar Jackson has to do with his running ability. And like I said earlier, he had 4 more rushing yards than Josh Allen and like 5 less games played. And that's pretty crazy. But Lamar Jackson, and one of the things too is he improved in his passing game. That was something that that didn't get talked about enough. Mark Andrews was easily the tight end 1 because of Lamar Jackson. That Lamar Jackson improved on the passing game, and I mean, obviously he ran quite a bit, but he still had 2882 in his passing yards. He was 16 and 13. Don't love that touchdown to interception ratio right there. He had another 2 touchdowns, another 3 fumbles lost. And so you're looking at 243 fantasy points in our league in that span. And at the beginning of the season, those first 5 games, I had Lamar Jackson all season. Those first 5 games were so much fun with Lamar Jackson. In fact, that 5th game was incredible amounts of fun. I think I almost haven't rooted for a fantasy game quite like I rooted for that week 5 game against the Mighty Bucks to stay undefeated and to have Lamar literally on his own shoulders lead us back and win that game. The most points ever scored in a game by 2 teams. It was so much fun. Lamar Jackson, having him as the quarterback 4 feels wrong to me, but I know because of his running ability and you hope that he's gonna be healthy. This is all anticipating him being healthy. You hope this is gonna be a different year. You hope this is gonna be a lot better for him fantasy wise. I think he creeps into the upper echelons of the 400 fantasy points this year if he stays healthy, and I think he can even exceed that because of his feet, because of his legs. And I mean, 5 games missed, and he was at 243. Imagine what he could have done with those 5 games. Number 5, we have Kyler Murray. He had 333 completions. He had a 69.2 completion rating. He had 37, 87, 24, and 10. And then he had 423 rushing yards, another 5 touchdowns, bringing his total up to 29 touchdowns, 10. He had 0 fumbles, so 10 interceptions, 10 turnovers. He had 325 fantasy points. I love Kyler Murray. I love watching Kyler Murray play. There's been dogs on his size. There's been digs at his leadership, especially over this offseason. But the dude can play, right? Love watching him play. Love watching him escape the pocket. Love watching him run. Love watching him just throw dimes, right? The issue is going to be not for fantasy, right? The issue is going to be with his leader. Again, they dogged on his leadership. The issue is going to be with his team, right? With the Cardinals, not fantasy. We're not going to have fantasy issues with Kyler Murray. Next is Joe Burrow. He had 366 completions. He had a whopping 70.4 completion percentage, 46-11. He had 34-14. And then he had 118 rushing yards and was 2-2 in rushing touchdowns and fumbles lost, bringing his totals to 36 touchdowns, 16 turnovers. He had 354 fantasy points. Joe Burrow was someone we kind of dogged. Bush did 9/11 for Jeremy for taking him. He didn't take him in the draft. He picked him up as a free agent, and then he turned into a baller. I mean, like we messed with Jeremy with a lot of stuff. Joe Burrow was one of, and we dogged on, and he finished 6th, so he deserved it. We dogged him for the worst draft. But Joe Burrow, outside of his kicker, was the best player on his team. Joe Burrow was phenomenal this season and was kind of, to me, out of nowhere. Next, we have Dak Prescott, 410, 68.8% completion rate, 44-49. He was 37-10 touchdowns and interceptions, 146 yards rushing, 1 rushing touchdown, 6 fumbles lost, bringing his total to 38-16. He had 368 fantasy points. There's nothing you can say about Dak Prescott in fantasy. I mean, outside of his fumbling, clearly 6 fumbles lost, a lot of those strip sacks. But not a whole lot you can say about Dak Prescott. If you take Dak Prescott in 8th round, you're going to be pretty comfortable with who you have at quarterback. If you're a Cowboys fan and you take him in the 1st round because you're a Cowboys fan, you're still going to feel pretty comfortable because you have Dak Prescott as your quarterback. You're going to be pretty sad when you have running backs and wide receivers balling and you only have Dak Prescott. But, that's how it goes. Matthew Stafford comes in as our number 8. And what an incredible season for Matthew Stafford. 404, 67.2 completion percentage, 48-86. He had 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, 43 rushing yards, 0 rushing touchdowns. You're not worried about the legs with Matt Stafford, but he did have 2 fumbles, bringing his turnover totals to 19. He had 384 fantasy points in the 6. And man, here's the thing. Right now, I'm looking at our list, and Matt Stafford at 8 feels right. Matt Stafford with the Rams at 8 feels right. What doesn't feel right is the next one, who was the 6th quarterback of the year, all-pro first team, led a team to a championship. And that's Thomas Brady. And he had this is the stat that boggles my mind. He had 719 attempts, 719 passing attempts. He had 485 completions, 67.5% completion rating, 43-16 passing yards, 43-12 touchdown to interceptions, 81 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns, 3 fumbles lost, bringing his totals to 45-15. He had 436 fantasy points, barely below Josh Allen by 3 points. This feels so low to me. Like, I'm looking at our rankings. I have him at 10, and Jeremy has him at 8. And I hate it. I think he needs to be higher. Part of the issue for me personally, is not knowing where Gronk's going to be. Is Gronk going to be there? I hate that Tom Brady's so low. When I when I did my stat, but did my projections, I was like, man, Tom Brady's going to be pretty high, but no, like number 10 feels so low to me. I almost want to go change my projections because he feels so low. Now, coming in at number 10 in our consensus is Aaron Rodgers, 366 completions, 68.9% completion rating, 41 and 15. This boggles my mind with Aaron Rodgers all the time. 37 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns rushing, so that brings it up to 40. 4 total turnovers. Total. Those are all interceptions. Total. 101 rushing yards. He had 390 fantasy points. Crazy stat. 40-4 touchdown to interception. And that's not passing touchdowns. That's total touchdowns. But 40-4 is just stupid. It's what it is. It is just stupid. Now, he doesn't have Devontae Adams, and I think that's why he's so low on our rankings. There's no Devontae Adams, no Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Equanimeous St. Brown. Actually, I'm pretty sure Equanimeous is gone, if I remember correctly. So you have Randall Cobb, Robert Tonyan, Alan Lazard. Now, they did get Sammy Watkins, but yikes. Jalen Hurts comes in as our number 11. I know Jeremy didn't love that. He actually, he's super high on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had 265 completions, 61.3% completion rating, 31, 44, 16, and 9, 784 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, 2 fumbles lost. That brings it up to 26 and 11, 319 fantasy points. Then we get into Russell Wilson at the 12, who had 259 completions. He did have an injury in the middle of the season, and it crushed me, man. It crushed me. Now he's with the Denver Broncos. That's what's keeping him so high. And I actually am pretty high on Russ. And I'm super excited to see how he plays with the Broncos for fantasy. Now, the next rest of the list, we have Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins rounding up the top 15, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill, Trey Lance, and then Mac Jones rounding out the top 20. Matt Ryan, Jameis Winston, Carson Wentz, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones, 21 through 25, Jared Goff, Davis Mills, Marcus Mariota, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mitch Trubisky, Baker Mayfield, and Taysom Hill rounding up the top 32. And notice there were 3 starting quarterbacks who are not on our list. Trevor Lawrence, Drew Lock, and Sam Darnold all missed the list. Neither of us are very high on the 3 of them. In fact, Trevor Lawrence is my 34. He has not ranked Trevor Lawrence. Drew Lock is my 35, and Sam Darnold is my 36, and he has not ranked either of those as well. And my boy Gardner Minshew is my 37, above 3 of the 4 rookies for 2022. All right. Next episode is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do some keeper speculation, some whiteout rankings, and we hope Jeremy will be back for the next episode. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the 6 Fantasy Football Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at the 6FFL. Hit like and subscribe and hit the bell on YouTube. Follow on Spotify and check out our website, the6FFL.wixsite.com/the6.